Now this one is this is the newest setup we're working on. This tank is it's pretty much already cycled, but I'm going real slow on the stocking on this one. We are planting the sump. I've got plants outside for the moment, a couple fake plants, and yeah, we've got some fish going on in there. I kind of looked at the sump as a little bit of wasted space, so figured we'd do something different. Just threw matching 3D backgrounds in there, and once we get some real plants to take off in this thing, I think it should be pretty cool. We've got the fork-tailed blue eyes, some tetras. I got one festi grow out from another line, and there's an L147 that kind of does a little bit of algae control. But this drain setup is this one's a little bit different from most other ones that I'll do. I'll start on the return side. Pump sits here, goes back up through 1.5 inch check valve, which is basically right on the other side of that piece of wood. I have a fitting that's attached to it. Inside that fitting is it's all packed full of bio, and there's 2 sponges that I basically cut on the top. I also have a canister filter that I got attached over here around the bend. That's kind of just in case you know, of emergency, break glass. If anything were to happen with this pump, it'll at least keep the sump alive and keep most of the bio, you know, kind of happening, because that's packed full of bio too. But anyways, this return comes up. Line comes around here, comes up the side, and goes into the tank. That's the only return in the tank. Comes in here. You come down the other side, we have the Ghost overflow, which is basically, let me move my mag float out of the way. There's an internal box with a weir. That weir is magnetic. I can pop the whole front panel of that off and get to the fittings, doing any kind of cleaning or anything that I want. There's two large holes where the water basically comes from the tank into the box, and then this box, this is my main drain, this is my open channel standpipe, and that's my backup drain, my emergency, which basically water only goes into that on startup and if there's a problem. The theory behind how this works is basically you throttle the drain back, you actually restrict the flow so that this fitting in the box stays submerged. If that fitting stays underwater, basically no air comes into the line. You can see we got clear pipe. This pipe comes all the way down here, comes wrapped around into the sock, and it's a full stream of water that goes into it in the first pipe. Now the open channel standpipe, you can see a little bit of water trickling down the sides of the pipe. What that does is that actually takes a little bit of the edge off this pipe. This is doing about 99% of the work. That's doing about 1%. And this tube, which I still have to fit, and I've got to make it look a little bit cooler than it is, it lets in just enough air to where that the water basically clings to the sides of the pipe. Thereby it doesn't create any kind of turbulence, and you don't get air sucked into your drain. It does take 3 drains to run the beam: main, open channel, and then your emergency over there. I always run the emergency high. I never run any kind of a tube off it, because that's basically an audible signal. If there's a bunch of water coming out of that thing, it won't get the floor wet, we won't overflow the tank, but you'll hear it, and it'll let us know, hey, something's not right. So this is probably one of the more advanced setups. It is also the quietest that I've run so far. I'm pushing probably around 1,200 gallons per hour through this. It's a 135 top and then a 75 bottom, and this thing is moving a lot of water, and I'm actually, you can hear a tiny little bit in the open channel standpipe where you can see the water trickling down, but that's just because I got to do a few adjustments. I'm still kind of tweaking on the system. But the other cool thing about this is it's also flood proof. This tank is very, very difficult to flood. You would literally have to block all 3 drains, and the chances of that happening with the weir set up the way that it is, is virtually impossible, because you'd have to have something pretty large to be able to get in there and clog up all 3 of these fittings at the same time. But this is the newest thing that I've been working on for a while, and so far so good. Hopefully I'll get a few more fish in here. Right now we got a bleaker eye, we've got an old rainbow shark, a convict, and I have a breeding trio of L75 paraplecos down in there hiding under the rocks. This tank will probably be getting the Carpentis pair, and it will probably get the Cutter Eye. I don't know, pair, trio, however many that I can kind of squeeze in here and you know, have cohabitate with each other. But that's it pretty much. This is your bean setup, and this is a very popular setup for the reef community. A lot of reefers use this because it really moves a lot of water, and it does it very, very quietly and safely.